Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous Monday Night Magic with Ken Close and Lori Falk. I'm so honored to be doing this incredible work with you, Ken, and taking this deep, deep dive into the magical world of the Healy and how it works on an epigenetic level and helps us in a myriad of ways. So what do you want to chat about tonight, my friend?
Well, it's funny when we were talking about, planning for the next month and that kind of thing. And it's so synchronistic how what certain things show up in my life. I write articles, do posts, do trainings on things around questions or things that I get from other people in my life. And what's been coming through lately is essentially what happens on the other side of our goal. What happens on the other side of our change? We want to try to make some difference in our life. And then what happens when that starts to take place? And some of what we're going to call the dark night of the soul tonight, when we're evolving through change. So that's kind of where we're going to run through tonight. Some of you guys are asking, somebody's asking about the training from Saturday. So Lori just put it in the chat. And if you guys don't know how to save the chat, at the bottom of the screen, there's three little dots. Click on those three little dots. It lets you save it to your computer if you're on a computer right now. And you can do the same throughout our presentation tonight if there's some questions that get answered in there. But I would love to build a little bit of a blueprint, a little bit of a let's call it a flow chart, right? Let's call it a flow chart to the new you. Epigenetically, or I should just say evolutionary or even energetically, what's going on with the mind and the body and the spirit? What's happening in the moments of transition and change, and how do we bring that about? And we're gonna kind of unpack that this evening. But first, let me just kind of give you a little bit of a blueprint. Let's talk about like a flow chart. What happens? What stimulates the desire for change? It's typically suffering, right? Something we're just, sick and tired of being sick and tired, or whatever it is, or just something that I just feel like I'm just really done with, and I want something else. And a lot of times, interestingly enough, we kind of know that there's something else, right? We kind of are already aware that there's another level or some other understanding. And so the first thing that typically starts to happen is, of course, a desire. A suffering starts to outweigh the redundancy of wherever we are, and we seek an answer. There's a very distinct transmitter. These human bodies are amazing transmitters, just like the radio station in your local hometown that has an antenna up on the hill. You know what I'm talking about? You tune your radio on your car and you pick up whatever music is available within range of that antenna or that transmitter. That's a signal going out from the radio station. It's called electromagnetic force or electromagnetic signal. And when you tune your radio station in and matches the signal, then the content starts to go through your radio and you hear the sound out of your speakers. Well, these bodies are exactly that, but they actually do both. Not only do they receive signals and decode them and then become an expression of them, but they also send signals. So when you have a thought in your brain, that's electric. You have a feeling in your heart or in your body, that's magnetic. No different than that radio station, electromagnetic pulse or force going out in the world. And people pick that up. So we want something different in our lives. We start having a thought about it. We start having a feeling about it. Guess what we're doing? We're transmitting a signal and out there somewhere, someone receives it. Or more specifically, let's go into neuroscience, what's called the reticular activating system. This is the 400 billion bits of information per second going through this stem of neurological hardware. There's a tremendous amount of information going through there. And we're physically aware of about 2,000 bits of that. So 400 billion, you can't see my arms are way out here, stretched really big. And what we can see is 2,000. It's a very small amount, but just take a snapshot of everything you see, feel, touch, taste, hear right there in this moment. That's within that 2,000 bits, right? That's a lot still. But the other part, the 95% that you're not aware of, is what is reading that magnetic pulse that other people are sending out and that you're sending out. And that's where the alignment comes in. When you are sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to change in your life and you start thinking it, feeling it, desiring it, putting energy into it, you're sending out a signal, and somebody's going to walk into your life, or something's going to be noticed by your awareness. And all of a sudden, boom, now you're on a journey, right? Now you're on a journey. You found something and you start down that path. So that's the first steps. Until we really want something different in our lives. I'm not talking about just like, well, maybe, well, it'd be nice. That little willy-nilly kind of testing the water kind of thing. No, I'm talking about, you really are ready. That's when something big is going to come into your life. And that something big is some new information. Now, we live in a world of, look at technology. We live in this world of information at our fingertips. We can find anything in a second. Overstimulation, if you like, but in a second, we can have anything we want. So it's not about information. Information's not quite enough. It's not enough to know the information. It's now we need to know how. Right now, it's a matter of knowing how to take this information and apply it, and then begin this journey. And so that's where our awareness starts to expand. So if I'm going to build this flow chart, number one, perception, where we're looking for something different. There's this input, the visual, the audio, the mental understanding. There's this perception. And then all of a sudden we get some kind of a helper. We get some kind of information. And that awareness starts to expand, and we assign meaning to this change or this desire. We assign meaning to it. And that the moment we start to see an explanation, like what Lori and I did on the coaching module, right? Or we align with Healy and we start using some of the programs, and suddenly we feel a little something. We assign meaning to that. We give value to that. And we start to pursue that through our desire to expand on it. This process builds the thoughts around it, and those thoughts have chemistry that generates chemistry in the body. We have a feeling. So the thoughts and the feeling build the experience, and experience is the enrichment of life. That's what we're looking for, is having experiences in our life. And these experiences are built into the biology of our body. So the genetic code is written within the body so that it can handle the experiences of the environment, right? We want a body that can handle the experiences. If we're in an environment that's smooth and soft and comfortable, then the body acclimates to smooth and soft and comfortable. If we're in an environment that's harsh, critical, demanding, then our body becomes a fit for that environment. So it's the environment that constantly is giving input, but it's the thought and the feeling combination that signals the gene to fit in the environment, right? So it's a handshake. It's a handshake process. And so we want something different. We've got to start changing some of that filtering process. And as Lori does with her coaching and helping people have tools and build content around their intention, around their desires, around their new information, around what they want to have differently in their life. Now we're starting to build a model. Lori, you want to expand on any of that?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to add is that it's so important to realize that while you're having these new thoughts and you're thinking about what you want to change in your life and moving in a new direction, you've got that process going. So everything is interrelated, right? We say the Healy works on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical field simultaneously. So an example, I was going through some things last year that were bringing up a lot of fear around my future, around money, just different things like that. And I ended up, writing some coaching programs to move out of that. And I wrote the intentions for where I wanted to go and what I wanted my life to look like and to be free from all of this. Well, as I was clearing the emotional field, guess what happened? I had the worst sciatica I've ever had in my life. Well, that's root chakra. And that's where the fear was, right? Fear around my future, fear around abundance, fear around finances. So it's all intertwined. And that's really super important to realize. So you may, wake up one day with a backache and have like no idea where that came from. And it might be what you've been thinking about. It might be what you're working towards clearing, and it's stuck at a physical level in that location. So even though you're running a pain program on your back with sticky pads, you're literally also simultaneously shifting the emotional components that created it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. That's the key, that the memories, the emotion live in the biology of our body, and they are built into specific centers. Every one of which she talks about the root chakra, or the first center, which is all about the creation of life, right? That's how humans create life. That's the procreation center. That's the building blocks, the way that life begins. And then the second center, which is just a little higher, which is essentially our safety, how we feel safe and secure within the world. That's around the gut. And so when we're taking in food, if we're in a stress response, then our digestive process is negated, downregulated. And so we're not getting as good of digestion. And typically, if there's like things around irritable bowel or ulcers or, stomach aches, chronic stomach aches, nervous gut, that kind of stuff, that's all around the second center, or how we feel safe or not safe in our world. It starts to express within that area. Then we move up a little bit further into the solar plexus. This is our will. This is our power, our empowerment with the world, how we interact with our environment, and how we feel that we are empowered, or we have courage, confidence. And again, when that's negated, what's around the solar plexus? That's again the upper gut. That's acidic, indigestion, that kind of stuff is going on through there. We also can have issues with lungs, with the breathing and things around bronchitis and those kind of issues that happen with our breath. The heart is the fourth center. If we're missing love within our life, not feeling loved, not expressing love, feeling blocked around there, what is the number one cancer for women? And what center of the body is that cancer, right? Think about that for a moment. And it's not an accident that how many of us don't feel loved, appreciated, cared for, nurtured, protected, and that heart center starts to not feel expressed. Keep going up a little further. You've got the throat chakra, right? That's the fifth center. The thyroid issues, how many of those are out there, right? Things around that area. Not being able to fully express ourselves, not feeling heard. I mean, how many people have experienced relationships where you feel controlled or talked over or just ignored, right? I mean, that's not just women, it's men too. So that's a big deal that we need to really address, because disease and disorder happens within the centers of the body that are feeling low energy. You move on up to the sixth center. That's where our third eye is. We've got brain tumors, we've got loss of eyesight. What's the third eye? But our ability to see and project into our future, and and have this clarity with our world. And then, of course, the crown chakra, which is our connection to God, right? To the spiritual side of us, is this ability to tap in and open up. And so anytime that we are down regulating one of these centers, we're expressing life because of a lack, or there's a lack of something that's helping us express life in a limited way. That center is going to be affected. So, as you know, in the Healy, we've got all 7 chakras, right? in the Healy, we can run those energy centers, and we can energize and bring the energy up within that center. Because just like charging a battery on your cell phone or on your car or on your Healy, the batteries get depleted, right? Because of use, not because it can't handle it. It can handle it. It just needs to be recharged. So why not recharge your energy centers? Why not recharge your chakras? Why not realign those centers and bring energy back into them? There are very specific meditations designed for blessing the energy centers and moving energy up through the body and bringing awareness, that where you place your awareness is where you place your energy, right? No matter what it is. How many of us place our awareness on struggle, on gossip? Maybe. I know none of you guys do, but I mean, I'm just saying, you maybe know somebody that places their awareness and their energy in gossip or complaining or just having something bad to say. Even some of the news, right? Maybe not the best place to place our awareness, but where we place that awareness is where we place our energy. And that's just simply energy being given away that could be doing healing. And that's what we want to bring back into the body. So blessing those energy centers, using our Healy to charge up that cell structure. Each one of these programs, folks, understand that they have a very distinct purpose. The frequencies that are within the resource pool that it draws from, every frequency within the title of that program is known to have a positive effect on whatever that program's purpose is, right? So if we're talking about the chakras and we choose the heart chakra program, every frequency within the resource pool, and I remember that resource pools maybe is hundreds of different frequencies, but it's looking at you to find the exact right ones to align with your body in this moment. Again, it'll be different the next moment you do the same program, or if Lori does it, or I do it, or one of you guys do it, it's different frequencies, but still within the resource pool of, say, the heart chakra, right? There's a known grouping of frequencies that will align and charge the heart chakra. So then the system looks at you as a body because you're connected to it via the wires or the coil, and it's going to find resonance with the purpose of the program and your body, and then pick the programs or the frequencies proper to that task. Now we're energizing the heart chakra, right? We're charging it up. We're down regulating disorder, up regulating energy. And now we're going to feel better because of it. Remember the flow chart that I built. There's a perception. There's something we take in from our outside world, right? Then there's a thought about it, a judgment about it. It creates a feeling in our body, and our body starts to express it chemically. Well, when we express that chemically, now we're influencing those cells, tissues, and organs. But if we're using our Healy, we're starting to help energize the body. The body holds the memories of the past in our biology. I mean, and the way to know that that's true, just for a moment right now, think of something that gives you joy. Just anything. I mean, a pet, a painting, a child, right? Or a grandchild, or a roller coaster. I don't know, anything that gives you joy. Think of it for a moment. Let yourself think of it, and maybe smile a little bit and let that sink in for just a second, right? Now, none of us made up joy just now, right? We've known what joy is for a long period of time. Somewhere along our life, we assigned meaning to an experience that we defined as joy. We did that. We used examples in our outside world. Sometimes maybe it was a parent or a coach or a sister or a brother said, "Oh my gosh, this is joyful. This is great. It's awesome. It's fun." Oh, that's what joy is. Okay. We feel it in our body. We assign the meaning to it. Now the biology remembers it. So does the mind. Neurological circuits, hardware is built in order to support the body. And the body has hardware built to support the mind. Now we have this handshake. And so all we have to do is have a thought and we can feel joy, right? On the other side of that coin is the same thing with, I don't know, trauma, anger, despair, grief. It's all built in, and we already know how to feel that. All we need is a trigger. We need a perception something that we perceive out there as a trigger for that, and the body feels it. So let's go back to the building a better you for a moment. I wanted to build that blueprint and that flow chart. Okay, so you understood what's going on. Information leads to transformation. We need some information. How's this system working? So that now I know how to hack into it, right? The Healy does a very good job of working from the inside out, but we, as a consciousness, have a will stronger than God, stronger than the quantum field, stronger than any other will. And we can negate all of the alignments that Healy does for us. We can negate all of the health benefits of a good quality diet plan. We can negate all of the influences of a fitness program, right, by the mind alone. So I want you guys to really understand the power that you have here in your mind and what the thoughts are doing and how they're generating this outcome. And the moment we've got some new content, some new piece of information, we've put it in place and we've opened our hearts, right? We've really opened our hearts and we saw some other way. This is where the self starts to rewire. Now, Healy's going to come in and help us do this. But the self, the mind starts to rewire and you see things a little bit differently. And the dark night of the soul is more, it's a necessity, because whatever we don't like in ourselves, in our body, we have to surrender that. And there's literally a biological, emotional, physical death of the old self. It has to take place. We have to move off of the shore of the self we don't like to navigate the ship over to the self we do like. And then once we get to that island of the self we do like, we have to burn the ships. We have to let go of the old self or we'll flip-flop, right? How many times have you done a change and you're like, oh my God, you go back over here, you test the waters for a minute, right? And then what happens? You're right back in the old program. There's a moment in which you have to let go of that surrendering process. And this is kind of the thing I felt really needed to be unpacked a bit, is because this evolution, this moment that you decide the new self is more valuable than the old self, remember what's attached to the old self. Everything in your past. That's people you know, places you go, things you have, the places you live. All of that's still associated with that old self. And it's important that you allow a new point of view to see it differently. Some things are no longer going to fit in your life and you've got to surrender them. Some people move into a new house, a new city, a new, some relationships start to fall off, go away, not because those relationships didn't serve their purpose and those people still aren't valuable. And so, to something, they don't fit the new model. And that's okay. It's okay. Sometimes we are going to bring up those other people with us because they're really ready. They've just been waiting for you to say, please give me permission, and they'll do it too, right? This is what's beautiful about that. We have a group of people around us that says, I'm in, I'll support you. I'll help you. Let's do this together. Others will say, no, I'm comfortable. I'm not going to cross that river of change with you. Okay. They need to stay on the other side. And eventually that'll change, probably, maybe, but still, this is your life. You only get one body to navigate this life in. And if you decide that you're going to stay in the suffering, the disorder, the biological you will also suffer and decay. And so let's build this model, right? And this understanding that there's a part of us that's going to be surrendered. And we need to find a support structure, right? So as what Lori builds a support structure, we need to find that. Lori, you want to talk about a support structure and what that looks like in terms of allies?
Yeah, absolutely. The most obvious program module, if you will, that will support this type of a shift and a change is the coaching module, because it's going to go in and it's going to find exactly what is in your subconscious that is preventing you from moving from point A to point B. Here's the life you live today. Here's the life you want to live. in between are all the things preventing you from getting there. And often, as you will find when you run the coaching module, it's subconscious programs and beliefs that you inherited. It's emotional DNA patterns that you inherited from your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors. And here's the thing, that stuff's been there for decades and you're attached to it. You may not like the way some area of your life is, and you may say you really, really want it to be this over here. But when you start to let go of all of that stuff in between, oh my goodness, the monkey mind's going to go crazy on you. And it's going to start to sometimes revert back. I always tell my clients that the line from point A to point B isn't like a straight line up. It goes up a little, you have an improvement, maybe you plateau, you dip a little, plateau, go up a little, plateau, dip a little. Notice the dips aren't coming as low as they used to, but you're still dipping and the dips still feel funny. And you're dipping because you're resisting and you're feeling kind of crummy, and it can get so deep and so painful. And that's why they call it the dark night of the soul. So if you don't have really great friends that are aware of what you're going through or what you're trying to achieve, then maybe hire a coach. I mean, honestly and truly, I got more out of 6 months of life coaching than 10 years of therapy. Not kidding, because coaches give you tools to use to move through the process. So while you're waiting for your friend to call you back, while you're waiting for an appointment with your coach, and all this stuff is bubbling up to the surface, realize that we have, those of you that have the professional have like over 200 program categories, right? I mean, it's amazing how much is in there. So what's going to help? What's going to help? Well, you want to find out what the emotions are that are coming up. And the easiest way to do that is to do the Bach flower essences and the bush flower essences and the gem elixirs and the mental balance programs. And all of those programs are going to help you. They're not going to change it. They're just going to make it easier to go through. I've been through a couple of dark nights of the soul. One was pretty horrific. One laid me out on the couch for a year. And I sure wish I had the Healy back then. I really, really do, because it was painful. It was hard. It was challenging. And those of you who ever deal with depression, the number one thing people do when they're depressed is hide. Guess what the worst thing you can do when you're going through a process like this is? To hide, because nobody's there to support you. I mean, I laid on the floor in my room so many times during that and just sobbed and prayed and asked God to help me, because I was too embarrassed to let the rest of the world know the pain I was going through. Now, isn't that silly? I mean, every single one of you would tell me how silly that is, but I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I didn't know how to get from point A to point B. I was embarrassed that my life was falling apart. I was embarrassed that all these feelings were coming up. Learn from my mistake. Don't be embarrassed. Reach out to your friends, your loved ones. I mean, you're not going to necessarily go on Facebook and post how crappy you feel. That's not a good idea for anybody. Nobody needs to see that. But your best friend sure can see it. Your coach has to see it. They have to know it. So use those programs that are built into the Healy for these very purposes and help yourself to move through it. And then pay attention at the physical things that are showing up for you. And don't think, oh, well, Lori said I should be running gem elixirs when I feel like this. If you got a physical symptom, address it, because I assure you, built into that program are the epigenetic components that are going to work at the emotion that's creating that, because it all happens first in the emotional field before it settles into the physical field.
Remember that the programs I said have a resource pool of hundreds of frequencies, and the resonance, when it's looking at your body, it's finding resonance with the alignment part of the purpose of that program. And so if we are looking for alignment, it must be assessing the misalignments. Yeah. So when it's building the coherent grouping of programs to be resonant with your alignment. Now this is, remember, this is looking at you on the other side of the healing. Okay. It's looking at you at the most purest and aligned form and finding the frequencies to bring you up to that. So there are things built in, like Lori said, part of that's emotional. Actually, a large mother load of that is emotional, because that's what created the biology. Okay. So, but it's also addressing the biology. If it's a physical disharmony within the tissues, a pain, some kind of low energy vibration, whatever it is, it's looking at that as well. So there's going to be groupings of frequencies, and you'll see, if you watch your program, you'll see the frequencies that are typically like below 500 hertz, that kind of stuff. That's the body. That's speaking to the biology. But then you see some of these frequencies that are up in the tens of thousands of hertz. That's speaking to the emotion, the spiritual side. It's speaking to that higher side. So it's pretty fun to watch the program, and it flip-flops around through these frequencies, right? And applies them to your body. And then it's really cool to watch the report card. You get the progress report at at a certain point, starts telling you how high the resonance of your body is with that one frequency. Each frequency has their own assignment. So this is the true handshake. It's what I call the permission-based handshake with the Healy and the body. Healy is the only technology that asks permission of the body, right? Think about it. What other technology actually asks permission of the body and then assigns proper meaning to the answer? Let's just take any technology, infrared technology, let's take vibrational technology, any of those. They're just a giver. Now, I'm not saying it's not effective, but they're just a giver, right? They have one setting, 2 settings, 10 settings, 100 settings, but they're a manual setting. You set it and forget it. And it sits there and operates or oscillates and transmits and gives to the body. The body can be saying, no, I hate this. And it's going to go, keep going. Timer's still running. We're not done yet. Right. So, but Healy asks permission. And as you'll notice that when your body has had enough of that frequency, you've reached 100% resonance with that frequency, guess what? It kicks it out. It no longer brings it back to the equation or to the table. It doesn't bring it to the next rotation. It's gone. It's done. When the body's at full resonance, it's given the Healy all the permission it's going to get. I give you no more permission. And so the Healy says, okay, you're done with that one. So this is how often, though, us as a psychology, when we find something that's beneficial to our change, and we give permission to the outside world to help us with it, we start using it, then we bump up against our edge of belief, the dark night of the soul, and all of a sudden we revert back a little bit, right? So folks, I wanted to really talk a lot about that dark night of the soul, because I'm getting so many of my friends, even myself, going through some of that dark night of the soul, because I've rewired something in my belief structure. I've assigned a new meaning to some old technology in my life, in my body, some old biology that no longer served me. I put new meaning on it. And the moment I do that, my body rebuilds itself under that new meaning, and it sees things differently. And you find what doesn't fit anymore. And that's okay. And so that's happening right now. We've just come out of another global condition in which there was down regulation, suppression, confinement, all of this stuff where the body was shrinking. We were placed into a small bubble, right? And now we're expanding. We're coming out of that. We're moving out about our lives. having to find new formulations of mind and body based on the information that we got. We've learned new ways to communicate. We took a lot of time to research stuff, right? What else could you do? You got a computer, right? And you like Google doctor and everything or whatever. It's like a lot of information. This is where people discovered Healy. In the midst of a pandemic, we got this beautiful tool. All right. And we launched it in the United States thinking, oh, what were we thinking? It's like, geez, but it took off like crazy because people were hungry and wanted this new information. All right. So now we've got this technology. Now we've got this understanding. We've got this new information. Now we're gaining a new genetic code. And I want you guys to know something about the DNA. It's an amazing, infinite strand of potential. What's within the genetic code is not only every bit of the past that Lori was talking about, ancestral, but also every combination of possibility for the future. You understand that? Think about that for a moment. Our genetic code, this human genetic code, is built to accommodate anything coming. So the only way that we can prepare for anything coming is to stop taking the energy designed for healing and giving it to stress. We need to make sure and keep the energy of healing within our heart open and alive. That's how the body heals. And this is how Healy will assign its better meaning and better effectiveness to our bodies. This body is the only one you get. So it's important that we understand how it heals and how it doesn't. It's just as important to know what we do want as to what we don't want. A lot of the psychological models will have us go back to the suffering and figure out how to work our way through it. That's not necessary. It's not necessary. We can simply rewire the biology, not suppressing the history in the biology. I'm talking about making it obsolete. That's the true healing, is to make old belief structures, old biological systems obsolete by the energy of a new system, a new you, and you assign new meaning to it, and that upregulates everything. It's like a new science suddenly changes everything: biology, psychology, all of the different arenas of science. A new, like quantum physics, has upregulated everything. No longer is the Newtonian principle enough. We've outsmarted it. And now we understand how to cause our own effect. And that's where we're doing it tonight. This epigenetic concept, how the mind-body connection, how Healy interfaces with the energy, changing the frequency of the genetic code so that our body becomes a new level. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much the thing that's in the genetic code is complete. We don't have to worry about something that's missing. All we have to worry about is getting rid of or letting go of the things that's taking away or subtracting from the power of our healing. It's not that we have to really do a lot more. It's just do a lot less of the things that don't support us. Make sense? All right. Lori, anything else you want to put in there? This rebirth?
Yeah. As you're rebirthing, as you're coming out on the other side, as you're letting go of the old ways of being, guess what's going to happen? Some people aren't going to like it. Some people aren't going to like the new you. And that's like, you kind of shake your head and go, wait, I'm improving myself. I'm becoming a better version of myself. I'm letting go of the stuff that wasn't serving me and moving into this new ideal. And you think everybody's going to love that.
Mm-hmm.
No, they won't. They just won't. And I'll give you a really good example. I was doing this work in the School of Spiritual Psychology. This is 20 years ago, before the Healy, obviously. And I was about a year into the program, and I really was shifting. And I was presenting in the world differently. And I was interacting differently. And I was in a relationship at the time. And I remember my significant other said X, Y, or Z, and he expected me to blow up. And I just sat there. And he went on and tried to actually have an argument with me. And I just looked at him and I said, I got to tell you, you're arguing with yourself, because I am just sitting here listening. I have chosen now to not react because of an emotion that triggers me, but to take it in and think about it and address it when I'm calmer. And you are treating me the way you would have treated me if I were reacting in the old way. And the relationship ended up not working because he just couldn't see who I had become. And it's sad. And there were other people in my life that were like, but it was all these buts. But you used to do this, but you used to do that, but you were always comfortable with this and you were comfortable with that. Well, guess what? Some people will fall away. They just will.
And that's that liberation that I talk about. There's a liberation process where we liberate feeling, emotion, content. There's a super great question or request in the chat about what is it that we focus on? If we're looking at changing some aspect of ourselves, but we don't really know what that is, because perhaps suffering is not suffering, I won't use it that way. Perhaps this personality is just so well understood that even suffering feels like that's just who I am. Feels like that's just part of my life, because now when I say suffering, I'm just talking about just not the feeling of joy, right? I mean, just because I'm talking about suffering, I'm not talking about that you're necessarily in pain. I'm just saying that there's just not joy in your life, right? There's just not that giggly self that once was there, or the knowing that there is a self that's happier than the one that's sitting in the chair. So that's important to know too. It's like, okay, I don't have this joy. So what do I do? Where do I start? So first place to start, every single one of us, when I talk about giggling, you could probably pull up a reference to that, right? Not everybody is visual. So sometimes I don't like to say, let's visualize giggling. No, I'm saying, let's experience giggling for a moment. And you can kind of go to a moment in which you felt, you were laughing so hard, you're crying, right? There's a giggling going on, and feel what that was like. Remember what that was like. That's the time of your life where there was joy. There was something to celebrate, something to laugh about, right? Go to that. That's a reference point. That's a good starting point. You don't have to know that I want a relationship or a career or anything like that. It's just that the absence of joy is attached to the absence of healing. And we need to find something that opens our hearts right now, right today, in this moment. What is it that I can feel joy in my heart? I can feel the opening, and I can let it linger for a moment. And I like to use giggling because it's just something that, we can probably watch comedy. And studies show that just 1 hour of comedy, laughing, changes 400 genetic expressions. 400 genetic expressions in your DNA. Now, there's trillions of them, but I'm just saying that's a lot. It's down-regulating disease, up-regulating immune systems, and making your body healthier, just laughing. So if you don't know what you want, jump into some comic relief, right? What will make you laugh? What will make you giggle? And the more time you spend in there, it starts to, here's what happens, is it starts to down-regulate all of the focus on the chaos to bring clarity into what you do want. Then you can start building an intention from there. You don't have to know what you want or who you're going to be to just start to find joy for living in this present moment.
Perfect. Just perfect. Dr. Wayne Dyer, in his program, Manifesting Your Destiny, says, focus on how you want to feel. After 4 years of major depressive disorder disorder, I went to a manifestation circle, and we were supposed to come with one thing we wanted to manifest. Oh, come on. I needed a whole new life at that point. And all I could think of was, I have no idea what one thing to pick. And then I read Wayne's book and I went, oh, hell, I've just went through 4 years of depression. I want to feel joy. And I will tell you, I had no idea what joy felt like anymore. I couldn't even remember. But I spent just a little bit of time every day, because again, I didn't have the Healy back then, a little bit of time every day, imagining what joy might feel like and sending that energy out to the universe. So if you're looking, you don't know what you want, then put an intention into the Healy. My life is filled with joy. I'm experiencing joy in every moment of my day. Do you know, it was at that point that I was guided to the School of Spiritual Psychology. I was guided to become a spiritual life coach. I was guided to the right coaching program. I manifested a man into my life who was a multimillionaire who bought me a brand new car because I didn't have one. I'm not kidding you guys. I needed a car. Yeah, I needed a new career. Yes, I needed all these new things, but I really needed the joy. And by focusing just on the joy, all these other amazing things showed up.
Mm-hmm. Remember what I said about the reticular activating system? 400 billion bits of information per second. Change one aspect of your energy code, of your transmission, of your frequency. Change one aspect. The 400 billion bits of information becomes on your side to bring it true. It narrows the bandwidth, your 2,000 bits of information, the bandwidth, it narrows it and it turns it exactly so you find a millionaire to buy a new car. I'm just saying, it's exactly what happens, is because we're working with things that we're not used to. We're not used to having that much influence in terms of manifestation or creation. We're used to the suffering, the trenches of our life that we're in. So go to 10,000 feet. I offer this opportunity for you today. Just think about going to 10,000 feet and looking at the landscape of everything. Get out of the trenches. It's the trenches that give us the what's called the convergent or closed visual scope. Go to 10,000 feet. Go to the divergent, the wide gaze, and then just find that feeling of joy. It rewires the biology. It starts to the perception, like I told you before. Just look at the blueprint, follow the flow chart. Perception is joy. The input is our senses. The feeling is the emotion in the body. The body expresses the DNA, and then repeat. It's a loop. The body will then support the mind. Remember, the body says, hey, you know what? It's noon. I'm usually, checking my emails and I'm having some kind of response because I get bad news. I should be feeling like crud right now. But man, I'm not. I'm watching a comic show. I'm laughing. And the body's going to try to remind you to go back into that old self. So you have to be diligent. You've got to write out your fire escape plan. Write down the things that bring you joy. Get a journal. The moment that you journal something, it becomes an archive in time. Our mind can't argue with it. It's now on paper, right? And if you just keep it in your mind, like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want the other, then tomorrow, when you're in a state of confusion, you're going to go, what was I thinking? Go back to your notes, right? Take a journal, write this stuff down, get a clear intention, find some comedy, find some laughter tonight, get some giggling going on. And I'm going to tell you another thing to understand. Whatever energetic expression that you're on board with right now, whatever thought and feeling that's going on right now, whatever electromagnetic signal that you're on board with right now, there are millions of other people having it as well. And they will amplify your signal. So if it is despair, if it is grief, if it is depression, depression is a very amazing group of strong emotions, not just one thing. There's a lot of stuff in there. But if you are on that frequency vibration, there is millions on it as well, and they will amplify your signal. But if you want to laugh, you want to giggle, you want to be in joy, guess who's going to be amplifying that signal for you? Right here. I will, because I am in that same frequency. Trust me. And so is Lori. And so is so many other high vibrational people. And you will feel that. It will amplify your signal. Okay. So don't think you're alone, because you're not. The moment you have a thought, you are attached to millions. And let's all get together on that joyful side. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we talked about the fact that you're going to probably lose some of the people who are attached to the old you. But guess what? You're going to attract amazing, incredible people who are like the new you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about it. I made a commitment. I moved on March 30th of 2020. Who moves in the middle of a pandemic? Well, I guess I didn't really know that was going to happen when I picked the date. But nonetheless, I unpacked and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, for the first time in your life, Lori, you're in the right place at the right time. Because you just rebranded yourself as a health and wellness coach with a focus on epigenetics. That was the first week of April. On April 28th of 2020, guess what happened? I got a call about Healy. And all the incredible people that I attracted by not being depressed, by being in this high vibe energy. Oh my gosh. People say, how did you get through the pandemic, living alone? And I said, well, I have Gabby, of course, but honestly, Healy was how I made it through all that craziness, because every single day I'd be on Zooms with incredible high vibe people from around the world talking about things that are near and dear and passionate to my heart. And look at me, I get to co-host with Ken Close. Does it get any better than that? I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. I'm super grateful for being able to be here and bring some kind of value to an understanding of rewiring our bodies, really re-signaling that genetic code, because that's the power we have. And my passion is to increase human performance. And my method is by bringing it to you with the divine tools you already have. Every single one of you, every single one of us already has the hardware, the software, and the ability to rewire this body into the highest, most healthiest form. We already have it. We don't have to go back to school. We don't have to become a scholar, a mystic, a guru. We don't have to do any of that. All we have to do is find this present moment, reassign a meaning of a higher vibrational signal. Joy is a great one. Love's awesome. Abundance, gratitude, all these what I call above the line frequency emotions. Go look them up. If you're not sure what you're feeling, look them up. Make one up. If you feel something in your body that feels good, you don't know what it means, go to a list and say, oh, find the one that best fits it and assign the meaning to it. That's your power. Your Kung Fu is to assign meaning in every moment to all of the inputs that's coming in. This consciousness, this mind, is how we build the bridge between the outside world and the inside world. And if the inside world is broken, stop using the outside world as your justification. Build your own content. The body does not know the difference. Write this down. The body does not know the difference between something you see or experience in your three-dimensional space or something you make up in your mind. The genetic code will still be influenced by the mind. The body doesn't know the difference. It's the mind that builds the model. Okay. It's not the environment. It's the mind. It's the environment that can trigger the signal, but it's the mind that builds the assessment and assigns meaning. So I will ask you, what meaning will you assign on your life? On your life. It has a meaning. And if you just write the word joy right there, make that your assignment. That is the meaning of your life. And everything you see, you make that filter through joy before anything else. The body will biologically build a system, a host to house it. How's that sound?
It absolutely will. It's so incredible. It's just, when I did that, the backstory on pre-depression was that I was in the fashion industry. I was an editor of a trade publication for executives in the retail fashion industry. I got to go to the New York collections. Only like 1,000 people in the entire world get invited to those. So it was a big deal. I hated it. I hated it. It was the most superficial group of people I had ever seen in my entire life. And there wasn't one part of me that could continue. I had this trade publication for 15 years. I couldn't do it. I had no idea how to get from point A to point B. But focusing on joy, within a week, I was guided to the School of Spiritual Psychology. So the answers came just by focusing on joy. How amazing is that? And now what do I get to do? I get to help people on the inside, not on the outside. That was never who I was about. Never. At 16, I wanted to be a psychologist. I just came from a very conservative family who thought women shouldn't have careers like that. So anyway, that works so efficiently. Focus on joy. Mm-hmm. The rest will fall into place for you.
Being willing to surrender. On a Tuesday in 2012, I stood in my kitchen, looked up, put my hands in the air, said, I surrender. I give up my ego, my perceptions, my beliefs mold me. Now, be careful. When you say something like that with such conviction, now my dogs are looking at me like I'm crazy. Nobody in there but me and the dogs. And I said that with such conviction on a Tuesday, 2012, that the universe, God heard me. And when you put that signal out there with clear intention, the universe will shift on its axis to line up everything necessary that will move you into the next level. That was a Tuesday. On Thursday, my life went whoop, upside down. 3 days later. And I was offered so many things to shift and change. That began my journey with Dr. Joe Dispenza, by the way. And if you guys know who that is, you start taking part in some of that training. Here it is 10 years later and almost 20 live events of training. And I have now evolved into a being that can hover 1 foot in heaven, 1 foot on earth, and be in this choice point of I can take a content perception, bring it in, and I choose how to assign meaning to that. Not my biology, not my past, not even the psychology. I can choose it. So you guys can do it too. I know that. Just make a choice, cross that river, and know on the other side, there's people to support you, to dry you off, to warm you up, to give you a big hug, right? And to keep you safe, right? Just all you gotta do is just keep that frequency of thought in there. How about that? You guys, we're at the almost the end of our time, but any questions or anything that we can help you guys with? Where do you start? Where do you start today? What would that look like? Who are you on the other side of your goal? Go there. Go there in your mind. What did I say? The body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind or something you see in your three-dimensional space. Even if you can't see it in your life right now, go into your mind. Find some kind of value in a memory. Build a model inside your mind. Meditation is a perfect way to do it. If you guys are looking for some kind of a guidance in meditation, just go to YouTube and look up Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation. And I promise you, anyone that you get a hold of on there will walk you through. He guides you through in a very diligent way to move you from where you are to the other side and where you should be. So become somebody new right now and feel what it feels like to be on the other side of whatever you're bumping up against right now, whatever belief, whatever suffering, whatever pain, whatever incoherence. Feel what it's like without that. That's it. You don't know, you don't need to know anything else. Just feel what it's like without that. Who would I be on the other side of it? And let that start to build a model for you. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. The easier it gets. The first time, your mind's going to be all over the place. Like Lori mentioned, the monkey mind, it's going to be all over the place. That's okay. There's no bad meditation. And meditation, the ancient meaning of meditation is just become familiar with, just become aware of this new you. Try it on like a new jacket or a new shirt or a new outfit. Try on this new self. Wander around in it. Show the world what you look like in it. Dress up in this new you. All right.
Absolutely. There's so much support out there. There really, truly is. And I mean, Dr. Joe's meditations are guided. So it's keeping your mind focused. It's not like you're sitting down and going, oh, right? I mean, we can't even do that in this frenzied world we live in. It takes a trained expert. Maybe Ken can, because he's been doing this for 10 years, but most people can't. So use those guided meditations, and it'll help you so much. And I know a lot of people that were on our Saturday call, the coaching call, were interested in learning. I do have group coaching programs that are available where I show you in depth how to incorporate the Healy into your life, into your world, how to interpret things. And I include a plethora of material from my private coaching practice. So there's another one that'll start right after Labor Day. Oh, I hate to even think about that because summer's so short and wonderful. But yes, if you're interested, just reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you some more information on that.
Thank you all for being here. Oh my gosh, I applaud you. I love you. Thank you so much for taking into account your life and taking the step and the time to be here on a Monday night and see that there is another way.
There is. And our next Monday Night Magic is August 8th.
August 8th, everybody. Mark your calendars, save the date. And we'll tell you what's coming next. Today was a little taste of the getting beyond the dark night of the soul. Just know that the other side of that change is a new and better you. So let's do it. Let's all get on board with a little bit of humor. Let's giggle. How about that? Let's have a giggle party tonight, right? Just before you go to bed, just find something to giggle about. I'm gonna be doing it, you know. So I'm in, and I'll be giggling with you. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here with us.
All right. Bye, y'all.